amongst all the success, there was rough times. I would never come here and tell you only one side of the story. There is a certain code of behavior on the sea that he demands. I never saw him in Tahiti. He was taken into hiding. He was secretly put on an Air New Zealand jet, flown to Fiji. He worked his way on a number of ships back to his island Satawal. He left us a cassette tape, the 8-track, and a message to us, to the second crew. And I'll tell you this in all respect and great dignity, that the first crew was extraordinary. Just to make it to Tahiti. They were great sailors. They did what they were supposed to do. But for Mao, they didn't do one thing for him, and that was brotherhood. So behavior was not acceptable. He goes home, leaves the cassette tape, and this is what he said. He said to the second crew, us guys, the first crew is no good. Yeah, but it's not a joke. No. It's a serious issue. And it's painful to us that we were less than being good enough. He said, maybe you're no good too. And he said, Kimo, who is living with his wife, send my clothes home to my island. Nobody come look for me and never find me. So it was pop. It was over. I was the youngest and probably the one that held fear the most scared of all the nervous come down. I needed to go on this canoe and have someone hold my fear, and it had to be leadership that I trusted, and it went home. So being young and not careful about your word, I started to create a verbal alibi so I could go home and avoid the risk. So I started talking about quitting, but not my fault yet, everybody else's. And, one of our elders, Nainoa Wally Forsyth, who came down to fix damage of Mokulea trip down from Papeete, Wally's so extraordinary. He was the first of one of two people that surfed Waimea Bay in modern times, core surfboard, no skate. Extraordinary. Well-respected elder that I needed to respect. He comes, finds me in the youth hostel, hears me talking to Olelo of quitting. Grabs my shirt, pulls it right to his face, crying, and says, boy, you don't talk about quitting. And he says, you get on the canoe, you take it home, shoves me away and goes, because it's your time. Well, I got on. I had no choice. Crew of 13 young people, we just wanted to learn, we just wanted to go for it. And I was strengthened by new leadership brought on, professional manners, guys who could navigate with instruments, top sailors. And this is a part of our voyage back home, old slide. It only took us 23 days. It was an extraordinary trip. The one issue about this trip, we were never tested because we never got the storm, which would prove to be very powerfully changing in time. We get home, huge achievement, at least from our lands, Herb was there. As powerful as Herb is as a visionary, his initial vision was only to sail Hokulea once, dating back. The problem with that was us guys, that had been down the wake of our ancestors and been there, and knowing that Hokulea was our bridge to everything that is Hawaiian, and to our ancestors, and to our ohana in the Pacific. It was going down the road that we could find out who we are, and we could be proud. If you're not going to do that, then we become emptied again. So we needed to go, but we didn't know how. Mom went home. And, we, in hindsight, I would say, fully planned a second voyage. We did not prepare Hokulea in the way that she deserved. We had trained in the way that we could earn the voyage. And it's hard, but it's about the challenge that we're at today. We set off on a second voyage in 1978, on March 16th, not ready. Sunset, Hawaii Canal. Thousands of people there. It was stormy, bad weather. Leadership got up and talked to those 1,000 people and just said, you know, we're not taking an escort boat. We only have one form of communications back to land, old single standby radio. We haven't tested it, but it's okay. And if you don't hear from us, we'll call you by landline in a month. And, I know what happens when you compromise your core values. When you let go of the essence of what you're responsible for. We left that afternoon, stormy weather, it turned to gale. They call the channel between Oahu and Molokai Kaiwi, the bone, for the color of the whiteness of the breaking wave. By midnight, it turned gale. The seas were typically 12 feet. But when they stack, when the faster, bigger wave gets on top of the smaller, slower wave, it can get to 18 feet. And we couldn't keep the water out of the leeward hull. And we got caught in one of those stacking waves, and the whole Hokulea inside its hydraulic cycle turned it over. And, we were upside down. The only thing above sea level was one hull, and you had a crew of 14. And nobody knew where we were. And the expectation would call you in 30 days. We were in crisis, dangerous crisis. And yet, again, in every crisis, what you have to hold on to is hope and optimism to stay strong.